Well, firefighters are still on the scene after that blaze underground in Johannesburg. As you well know, electricity to the CBD and Selby, as well as surrounding areas, have been affected. Our senior reporter, Barry Bateman, is covering the story for us. He joins us now live. So, Barry, what's the situation right now, and how long before we actually see engineers or people from City Power being able to go down there to have an assessment of that situation?
Yeah, good evening, Shahan. Well, this firefighting battle has clearly moved on to the next stage. We've moved away from the black smoke billowing out of the holes behind me, and I'll just step out of shot so you can have a look. What you're seeing, and we look at the closest one to us, that steam that's coming out from underground, and what firefighters are doing is what's called dampening down. They're putting as much water as they can onto the areas that were ablaze earlier to ensure that there are no flare-ups. So where there might be an ember burning, well, you make sure that is doused. What we've also seen in the last hour or so, the firefighters have taken a water pump underground, and what they're doing periodically is they're pumping out the water. You can imagine tens of thousands of liters being, sprayed onto all the hot equipment or what was burning earlier. Creates quite a difficult situation underground. You start flooding the area. So what they've been doing is they've been pumping that water back out. Now, I had a touch of that pipe a short while ago. It's as good as if it was coming straight out of your geyser. It's that hot. So you can imagine. And, I just looked at some of the firefighters. They're going in turns, some going down into the hole while their colleagues come out to catch a breather. And they pull this equipment off them and gasp for air, fresh air that is. Of course, they're being pumped oxygen while they're down there. But to just get some fresh, cool air on their skin, and they flop over backwards. You can just imagine it's like a sauna underground. You've got this heavy equipment on your back, you've got the jacket on, the steam is everywhere. It certainly is a very difficult situation, but Joburg's finest are certainly doing their very best, Shahan, to ensure that there is no flare-up, so that we can allow engineers to get in there. We hope in the next couple of hours. We do have City Power officials on scene. They're just waiting for that all-important handover for the firefighters to give the green light and say it's safe for them to head underground to have a look at what exactly the extent of the problem is, and they can start working to fix it.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm looking at them trying to bring up the oxygen tank behind you. I'm guessing from one of the firefighters. Oh, there we go. He's actually coming out right now. Well, until this operation is over, and there's no telling how long it's going to take, isn't it?
No, we don't know how long it's going to take, but they're not stopping going down. So this guy would have come out, give it a couple of minutes, and one of his colleagues will go down that very same hole. But you can see just in, I can see his, I'm not sure if you can see his face, but the discomfort of having to work in these situations. They're going to keep at it at least until, I suppose, the steam starts coming out, because it wouldn't be safe for anybody without any protective gear to go under there. And it's not going to be, anytime soon, I don't think, Shahan.
And let's talk about the power then. Affected areas, several areas in Johannesburg, including the CBD. Is City Power saying anything about when people can expect that to return?
Well, they do hope once their technicians or the electricians are able to go underground and assess the problem, that'll give us an idea of how long it'll take to fix the cable. I was speaking to Michael's son earlier, the MMC. He was saying anything from 2 to 3 days. However, there is a contingency plan in place. They are looking, City Power is looking at their network, and they're going to be looking at what is called backfeeding. And that's basically a way to be able to detour or bypass this affected cable, so that they'll be able to bring power to the affected areas a lot sooner. That they're looking at, if everything's good, they'll be able to start doing that backfeeding tomorrow, and be able to re-energize the affected areas. So possibly another 24 hours or so, Shahan.
Yeah, Barry, these visuals are fascinating, so I'm going to nag you a bit to stay on them, because I see another firefighter emerging. Let us see how this is unfolding. And I know that these firefighters can't speak to us on camera right now because of what they're doing and because there are protocols as to who they can speak to. But if you've been speaking to them behind the scenes, what are they telling you? Because the frustration of the one firefighter who emerged earlier speaks volumes. He threw his hat off. He took his shirt off immediately. It is definitely boiling down there. and really very difficult to breathe.
It must be intense, Shahan. I mean, you're watching now, you see the steam coming out. We'll just keep watching and you'll see he'll probably do the same as his colleague did because it's so uncomfortable. Speaking to the guys earlier, and you must remember what you're seeing now is steam. Earlier, it was the thick black plumes of smoke where the person coming out now, you wouldn't even be able to see them. They would be enveloped by these clouds of this soot, heavy smoke. And you can imagine underground, they can't see anything. So bad was it, you're barely able to see the actual fire that you're going underground to attack. What they would rely on, Shahan, they would take down, it was a red device. It looks like a pair of binoculars, but there's just one lens on the front of it. But what it is, it's a thermal imaging camera. And what they would use is they would use that, because you can't see, light. Even if you had a torch, it wouldn't help you either. They'd be able to then locate the source of the heat, get to the most intense part of where that heat is coming from, and be able to put the water on it. So those are the conditions underground. And of course, they couldn't go underground without oxygen. And not just the tanks on their back. There's auxiliary oxygen that's up here as well. You can perhaps see it in the background. It's got these rolls on. Those would then be plugged into the side of these tanks on their back, and that is a backup. So just in case there is an emergency and their tank on their back fails, they would make sure that they have this emergency oxygen, because just seconds, I suppose, without having a fresh oxygen supply, you would find yourself in very deep trouble.
Yeah. All right, thanks for the update. Incredible scenes there in the Johannesburg CBD. Firefighters are underground. They are making sure that this fire does not reignite. And of course, it is affecting power in several parts of Johannesburg.
Yeah, Shahan, those visuals just show us exactly how hot it still is underground. So, of course, the natural question is, when will city power officials be able to go underground? And I'm bringing in Isaac Mangena, who speaks for City Power. Mr. Mangena, these visuals coming through live from central Johannesburg just tell a story of their own about how dangerous it still is underground. What are you hearing about when your city power officials are likely to be able to go underground to see exactly the damage done and what needs to be repaired?
Good afternoon, Sally, and good afternoon to the viewers. We spent most of the day obviously on site to basically monitor what is happening, and we were hoping that fire would have been put out already, so that we can be able to access the tunnels. But as you saw with those visuals, it's still very much dangerous for even City Power to be anywhere, especially underground there. So the scene currently, we've left it with emergency services so that they can do their work, they can put out the fires. They were busy basically sucking out the smoke underground. You can see now there's no longer smoke coming out from the manholes. So we are hoping that by tomorrow afternoon we will be able to get in a City Power and be able to do our own assessment as to the cause of the fire and even the cost to basically repair the infrastructure underground. But currently the scene is very dangerous for us to even be able to go there. But also, even after the EMS has handed over the site to City Power, we'll still have to basically get experts who can look at issues like the air quality underground. You can imagine the guys from EMS are using masks and even oxygen masks to basically ensure that they can breathe properly underground. The fumes underground are also dangerous, and even post putting out the fires, we expect that they will still be dangerous for us to basically go underground. So we will wait for the air quality controllers to also give us a clear go ahead, and also those that deal with structural integrity, because after the fire we don't know if the bridge is underground and the surface itself is still very much intact to be able not to cave in when people are underground.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm hearing you saying is that it's just too dangerous, too hot at the moment. The very earliest your city power teams might go underground will be sort of lunchtime tomorrow. So that sounds to me like there's no way you're going to be able to restore any power before that. Or do you have a workaround that doesn't involve this part of the CBD to restore power?
So the fire has affected about 3 kilometers of cables inside the 3 kilometers tunnel underground. That is between Fortsbeck and Carlton Center. But the cable is basically moving from Fortsbeck to another substation within the city center towards End Street called Central Substation. So what we have done today was basically to isolate John Ware Substation in Fortsbeck and also start working around Central Substation so that we may be able to backfeed some of the areas, especially those in the east, towards the northeast of the CBD itself, so that we can maybe able to restore some of the customers by tomorrow, at least around lunchtime. But the rest of the customers, especially within CBD itself and also Selby and part of Boisens and even Wema, can only be we can only tell when the estimated time of return of electricity will be after basically getting under there and assess the extent of the damage and how long the repairs will take and so forth. So yes, it's going to be a long while before the whole area is being restored with electricity.
All right, so what I'm hearing you saying is the outerlying areas that have had their electricity affected, you might be able to make a rerouting plan, but the areas around the city centre, there's absolutely no way until you actually get underground. What do you know of what's happened underground, and what do you know of the possible causes of this fire? Because, of course, if we don't know what caused it, it might happen again, surely.
Yeah, it's difficult to basically preempt because the investigations really haven't started yet, because we can't even access underground to basically start doing these investigations. So we are looking at all the possibilities. We are not ruling out anything, including attempted cable theft or even cable theft itself. We're not ruling anything out. So we are basically going to wait for this investigation to happen. It will start tomorrow after the site has been handed over to our engineers and our technicians, so that we can be able to try and see and check what actually caused the fire. But also EMS it will be also assisting us there, because they are also expert in terms of issues around fire and the causes and so forth. So they are currently also trying to do what they can, and we really appreciate this in terms of making sure that the space underground is safe for us to be able to start doing the investigation. Even themselves, their own investigation. Their own investigators are not able to get inside. It's only the experts who are basically diving in using those oxygen masks, so that they can at least put out the fire, and then we can be able to check what could have caused this. But we're not ruling out anything. You will remember that it happened in 2017, and also I think a year or so ago we found homeless people under some of our tunnels. They were trying to take cables at that time, and the police arrested some of them. Others ran away. But we are not ruling anything. The space underground, Sally, just to give you an idea, you can actually stand and walk. You can actually sleep under there. It's like a house. So, but that's where our cables are running. So when we go under, we will be able to just stand up and walk for 10 kilometers between one point of the CBD to the next, and be able to do this. I'm hoping to take Shahan along with me so that you can actually get an idea of exactly what we're talking about.
Well, Shahan, I'd love to come as well. So maybe we should do a whole show from underground. I mean, it's completely fascinating. But just to recap, while there's a workaround potentially for outlying areas, can you give any estimate at all of when the central parts of Johannesburg might have their power restored?
We're looking at minimum at least 3 days, but maximum we're looking at about 5 days before the central part of the city of Johannesburg,
All right.
the CBD, can actually have electricity. Like based on the previous experience, that's what happened in the past, where we took about 5 days before we can actually restore. And it's purely because of the initial work that is supposed to happen, so that the area is safe, and we're able to basically move in and do the repairs and restorations.
Isaac Mangena, thank you so much for giving us that update. City Power spokesperson Isaac Mangena saying that central Johannesburg affected by this underground fire 3 to 5 days before power is likely to be restored.